Hi, everyone. I will allow some time for everyone to come in. Seeing some familiar names in here already. Very excited to be here with you today. Where are you all from? Let us know in the comments. We would love to hear from you and obviously interact as we present this webinar. We will allow a few moments in the end for general questions and feedback. So please feel free to drop a note in the comments. Just allowing a couple of more minutes for everyone to come in. All right. Yes, seeing some clients here. Welcome. Amazing. Well, I feel like we're in a good position to start, right? So welcome to our very first webinar. I am Paula, Global Head of Influence and Strategy, and I'm joined today by the brilliant Andrea Cortes, our Proposition Development Manager. We will be taking a deep dive into how immersive experiences will shape the future of influencer marketing performance as we all try to make sense of the metaverse and Internet 3.0. Hi, Andrea. How are you today? Really excited to have you here with me.
Thank you, Paula. I'm very excited to be here with you. Thank you for the introduction. And it's a pleasure to be here and joining everyone at home. It's very exciting to be doing this webinar and talking about this very exciting topic that is creating such a buzz around the world. So we want to remember every one of you to please use the chat function to send us your questions. We want to hear from you. We want to make this a discussion with you. And by the end of the presentation, we'll be answering a few of the questions so that we can have a little bit of interaction with you.
Absolutely. We would absolutely love to hear from you. So again, send us the questions, drop us a note, and we'll be addressing by the end of the presentation. We've prepared some exciting takeaways to share here today with you. Andrea, I guess we're all feeling very excited about metaverse and the new realm of immersive virtual experiences and how all of this is really going to accelerate the power and shift human connection, right? Opening up so many new possibilities for content creator in the new large-scale virtual frontier. So there's a lot of noise across media and industry conversations going around, especially within the marketing community. But I guess the question is, what is metaverse and all of these new immersive virtual experiences that we are talking about, right? So I think all of us are trying to kind of make sense of this, but for us, metaverse is where human interaction is going to take place moving forward, is what is going to revolutionize everything that we know so far about content and media creation. So it's a whole new paradigm to us in the marketing industry. People are going to play games together, go to concerts, workshop, and our notion of interactivity will be taken to a completely new proportion, right? People are going to have to reimagine all of the things that we are doing right now, and there will be no more physical boundaries for how these experiences will evolve. So now it's not really the technology that will create those experiences, right? Brands and creators are the ones continuing to shape culture in these spaces and are the storytellers, in a way, really designing these interactions in this new virtual realm. So I guess it's only intuitive that we talk about how influence will evolve across these new metaverse spaces and virtual experiences we are talking about.
I agree with you, Paula. And I think it's time to start sort of demystifying what the metaverse is and how we understand it. As we are hearing people saying, there is no metaverse. Oh yeah, there is a metaverse, but it's evolving. So it's time to dive into starting discussing it and understanding more about that human interaction and how it's going to evolve, and how even engagement and community building is going to start shaping in a different way and bringing in new possibilities for people and for brands to explore and enhance those customer journeys.
Yes, thinking about how behaviors will change, we are basically talking about the new cultural revolution, right? So we cannot wait to uncover how the future looks like, more from a performance perspective, and how these experiences will actually revolutionize the concept of influence. But just before we do that, let's just take us back to just last year in 2021, when influencer marketing was a $13 billion industry, right? And it is expected to hit a whopping $84 billion by 2028. The reasons behind this growth are massively linked to the expectations and behavior of emerging consumers who are driving the global economies as of now. As well, I think we are, again, talking about Gen Zers, and this topic has been saturated across the marketing community. But I guess it's important to say that we are not only looking at Gen Zers, right? As the digital and social media spaces evolve, we are all going to be looking for more authenticity, for more individuality and immediacy when consuming media in these spaces. As we move to this whole new post-pandemic scenario, more and more consumers are turning into social to shop, socialize, join communities. So social media has become, in a way, the new high streets, if you like, right? So, and as the traditional retail space, as we know, it completely loses traction. We are seeing the crisis across the traditional retail economy already happening, right? The metaverse has the potential for a whole new world of interaction, specifically for creators and influencers, both with their peers and their audiences. And this means an even more exciting opportunity for content creation, where our creators will see absolutely no boundaries when it comes to where creativity and the connectivity with their audiences can go. Now, if you look at this from a brand perspective, these will have much more opportunities to actually flex their creative muscles, pioneering new ways of speaking to consumers on a deeper, more meaningful and immersive level, delivering the experiences we are all craving right now. Internally, we all talk about how to actually drive a wider, broader cultural impact beyond just vanity metrics for our clients. And brands now have the opportunity to do just that by really shaping those behaviors and experiences on metaverse. And now, again, as we are all trying to make sense of all of this and how this will really shape the next era of influence, our white paper provides a very comprehensive overview of best practices on how marketeers can better measure effectiveness of their investments in this space. We're just covering like 1% of what is in there. So please make sure to download it after this webinar. We're going to pop it in the comments. So now let's just take us all back a little bit further, right? When this industry first started, and probably that's going to reveal my age, which is a little bit embarrassing. But anyway, I actually was there. I started a career when this industry started, right? And I guess we all remember that measurement was all about number of followers one influencer had and reach. Measuring success was very hard as platforms were much more limited in terms of offering the transparency behind data and even depth of data, right? I remember Instagram just having about like 3 metrics that we could look at when analyzing influencer impact. So brands in that sense had to deal with the lack of tracking tools, and campaigns were a lot about just test and learning, taking a more reactive approach rather than a more strategic and data-driven informed approach, right? So that represented a huge challenge to all of us marketeers.
Yes, and even content focus has evolved, right? Before it was all about being aspirational, show off content. But today, both creators and brands understand that there is a need for that content to have something greater behind it, right? A greater purpose behind it. It has started to transition from that aspirational content to something that is more educational and inspirational and leaving value behind for the audience beyond just being a show of content. And I do believe, and here at MG Empower, we believe that creators are understanding much more now that brands, what they truly value and what audiences truly value is having that authenticity and relatability within the content that impacts also how the culture is being shaped.
Exactly. Cultural impact is everything within an influencer marketing strategy, right? So just taking back where we left, obviously, as the social metrics and social platforms evolved, right? New tools, new measurement tools came into place. So us marketers were finally able to understand the impact a little bit better, initially by looking at the so-called provided vanity metrics, right? Or if you like, views, likes, comments, shares, and so on. So from my perspective, the greatest issue with these metrics is that they do offer just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the influencer impact on the whole consumer funnel, and do not always translate into tangible business results, right? There's still a major uncertainty when it comes to brands measuring the ROI of influencers at the very end of the funnel, with 3/4 of brands saying that they are unsure about the bottom line return of influencers. Andrea, that's kind of a little bit shocking, right? Considering how far we came as an industry, that brands are not still able to actually the bottom line return of influencers and are still struggling to see the ROI.
It is shocking. And the reality is that most marketeers, we're still trying to make sense of all of this, right? How we attribute that impact on this new realm of immersive experiences.
Exactly. And in that sense, I'll tell you something. Views, followers, and basic engagement can only take us so far, right? This is a constant oversight from marketeers. There's a lot of attention, surprisingly, still being put on reach. And this kind of traces back from the old days of advertising. For instance, when we were putting a TV commercial on and we were targeting TV shows where we could get the most eyeballs on, and that we're targeting our target consumer, right? In the very early stages of influencer marketing. But moving forward, I guess the fundamental aspect that we need to all understand is that vanity metrics will never translate the real, tangible, holistic value behind influence. And I will put this in a very, very practical way. Andrea, how many times you were just casually browsing through your Instagram and were hit by a piece of content that didn't resonate with you at all? Or before you respond to that, let's just take engagements for a second, right? Which is a metric that brands normally take as slightly more effective as it ignites action from consumers. Can you remember the last 5, I'll say 3, not 5 pieces of content you've liked on Instagram, and most importantly, what has led you to like those pieces of content in the first place?
Not really. I can't recall that. It goes so fast also.
Yes, well, that's because engagements, views, and those so-called vanity metrics have become a commodity, right? Reason why we cannot take these metrics as the only indicators of success behind a campaign. If we are not pushing the limits between the basics of evaluating engagements, reach, and views, and again, all of the vanity metrics we are talking about, and looking how these metrics actually leads to purchase intent, and even more importantly, how the content makes a deeper impact on culture, which is something that we talk over and over with our clients and internally as an agency, right? Then the influencer campaign is definitely not reaching its full potential. So as we start to look at the metaverse, the new immersive experiences, and how behavior and social will be revolutionized, a shift to a more tailored performance measurement approach is needed as we look into those new emerging trends, right? So now we're not here saying that vanity metrics do not deliver value whatsoever or cannot be attributed as key performance indicators. I see some clients on my DM, and that's not what we're saying whatsoever. What we are trying to obviously put here is that we need to measure influencer marketing results in a more tangible way as we progress to look at this metaverse and immersive experiences, right? By creating attribution models that are tailored to the brand and the strategy between the so-called vanity metrics and bottom line business results, to be able to then gain a more holistic overview across the full marketing funnel, as opposed to analyzing those metrics as a standalone, right? So this focus on attribution performance models is exactly what we are missing from the influencer marketing conversation today. Now, as obviously we all come back to normality from a pandemic scenario, and this is still set to be a slow process, e-commerce and social commerce will continue to fill the gap left by the loss in in-store retail and the crisis we are all witnessing, right? In-platform purchasing on social media is set to skyrocket and become a 3.37 trillion business globally over the next 8 years. Well, it's no wonder that Meta / Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, and even Twitter are all investing heavily in creating more paths to purchase on their platforms. That's a good move from Elon Musk there, right? So in a similar way, the pandemic has accelerated the revolution on how human interaction and the internet is being reimagined in the metaverse, right? That is already happening for over 10 years. It's nothing new, but obviously the pandemic has accelerated that trend, particularly when we just take a step back and look at how gaming companies are already reimagining these experiences for a long time in a different scale, of course. But, well, I'll just pop this up. Perhaps this is a slightly dated reference, but still one of my favorites. Back when Travis Scott kind of hosted a concert in the battle royale game Fortnite, that took interactivity to an entire new level. It's revolutionized the concept of a music concert, right? And allow us to start reimagining how these experiences could look like just before the pandemic. Just mentioning about this, our latest podcast episode, which just has been released yesterday, invited Jonathan Ross Friedman, and he actually brings some amazing takeaways about the metaverse and how this will evolve moving forward. So please make sure to check it out. We'll drop the link here in the comments later on today. So obviously, I think to wrap up, right, marketeers who can really harness the trust, the shoppability, the authenticity of influencer marketing will be the ones setting the tone this year. And of course, as metaverse evolves and takes place, right? And our influencer marketing campaigns will need to actually find new ways for measurements that actually transition to this whole new momentum that we will be living.
Agree, Paula. And I think it's fair to say that today the landscape of communication and content consumption has shifted drastically. And consumer behavior is going to keep evolving. It's going to keep changing. And people, we are already seeing because of COVID and the pandemic, how people are now spending much more time online. And this is not only because of entertainment. It's actually because people are seeking to expand their communities and networks beyond that physical frontier. And we do believe that Web3 is what it is all about, right? It's community building. That's the focus. Beside having ownership and NFTs, that we will dive deeper into that a little bit later in the presentation. But the core aspect of Web3 is the development of that community building strategy that brands and creators will have to put in place. So as a result, the digital worlds sort of have started to emerge, not just as the spaces for connectivity and shopping, but also as platforms for immersive experiences that entertain, inspire, and allow new forms of interaction. Digital spaces have become even hangout venues. A great example of this actually is Heineken. This year, they launched their virtual beer experience for players in Decentraland, that they could experience a non-calorie beer. Here you're seeing how brands that are going outside their comfort zones and outside their traditional marketing activations to jump into something new. Even what is the whole purpose of Heineken beer, right? Tasting it, right? But here they've jumped into the virtual world to give consumers another perspective of how can they enjoy the brand. So in that sense, we can see how the gaming industry has definitely taken the lead in this way, and how immersive experiences will take two of the most valuable aspects about gaming world to another level. One of them being that sense of community, and the other one, a very important one, it's about personalization. How can consumers take that experience and make it their own?
Exactly. Well, if we are not doing so yet, I think gaming is definitely an industry that all of us marketers should be paying close attention to, as they are really shaping the way forwards in terms of setting the tone for avatar behaviors in this new digital realm we are obviously transgressing to.
I agree. And I think what is important is that a lot of brands out there have audiences that are very big, and not all of them are already in gaming. They are, let's say, they're not native to gaming or not native to crypto. And there's where it is important for us as marketeers to start understanding and exploring how both virtual and physical brand touchpoints will start to blend and complement each other, enhancing the overall consumer experience with the brand, but also helping the consumers to onboard into this new virtual realm. So a great example of this here is Alo Yoga. They are a leading fashion and lifestyle brand, and they partnered this year with Roblox to open the first virtual Alo sanctuary. This was an immersive wellness space for yoga, and it is actually, because it's still active in Roblox if you want to go and experience it by yourself. And it's an experience wellness space for yoga and meditation.
Exactly. I think that's a great point, Andrea, to cover, because obviously metaverse will move away beyond just the gaming and entertainment industries and incorporate actually aspects of our normal life, such as health and well-being, that will be at the center, right? So wellness sectors, including fitness, beauty, healthy eating, mental wellness, and even spas, are already all introducing new technologies and virtual worlds that deliver a far more immersive experience and radically transform how these wellness experiences are delivered to global consumers, right? So we need to actually look at this beyond just gaming, beyond just entertaining, and understand how our behaviors will be translated into this whole new universe, right?
I agree. And I think it's a matter also of brands understanding that right now is the moment to start testing and learning the waters. That is not just go straight into virtual world aiming to have a conversion on maybe sales, but it's about making a statement and also about how you can build up that brand equity of here I am doing the transition into virtual for you as my consumer to experience it. So to the point to Alo Yoga, the example of the case study, this strategy actually was built to start creating awareness and interest for the brand Real Life Wellness Sanctuary that was opened this year at Spring Studios during New Year Fashion Week. So you can see how a strategy can be put together to drive attention to something that is happening in the real world, an activation that is happening in the real world, so that those consumers can have that relatability of what's going on in the virtual world. So I think it's also important to put up the question on how brands can start creating those immersive consumer journeys, right? How can we start diving into it? So we've put together here a couple of new models of virtual interactivity that have started to emerge and that are being tested and are being tested by brands, and that perhaps everyone that is seeing us today, they can sort of try it on. So the first one is blended spaces. Where we're starting to see how hybrid spaces will allow blended experiences. So combining the best of the virtual features with what we have in real life. So a great example of this, we love examples. We love to illustrate what we're saying, the insights, to actually tangible recommendations for you. So one of these great examples is Shiseido's Tokyo flagship store, which opened last year. This is an immersive experience that is combining personalized AI beauty advice with sensory experiences for consumers to relax in the store, and also a contactless shopping journey. We'll share this presentation later with you after we finish the webinar so that you can have a proper look into the video that we've included here, because truly it's very worth watching and seeing how Asia is already, as always, 10 steps ahead of all the whole.
Always. In terms of live streaming, they've started this movement, and now it's taking place all over the world, right? So it's incredible to see how these trends are normally acquired first in Asia and then kind of come to other markets as well incrementally. So yes, definitely a case to watch later on.
100%. And from an influencer marketing perspective, this new landscape is also an opportunity to encourage creators to use these hybrid spaces to experience the brand in a new other level and also moving beyond social media into a more interactive experience to share with their community and shape that relationship with them based on these new immersive experiences. So we also have gaming futures. As Paula was mentioning before, brands have started to create their own gaming offers, mixing not only advertisement, but also entertainment and strong community relationships. So this will leverage engagement in different levels, from product discovery to shopping, up to gaining consumer feedback faster with the help of those key partners that will moderate the journey of consumers. So at this point, influencer marketing will focus on strengthening those relationships between the brand and the consumers, as they will play a key role as moderators, guiding the onboarding of the audiences into these worlds, making it easier for them to identify those niches with shared interests and understand the new dynamics of the virtual spaces. Here we're going to have new social channels emerging more strongly, such as Discord, Twitter. Twitter is going to have an amazing power as we are building these virtual spaces, Reddit. So it's important that as marketeers, we'll start shifting our mindset beyond the social channels that we know right now into these new channels. Then we have virtual possessions. And this is the digital ownership that is driving a new way of virtual products, establishing new shopping habits. So like NFTs and direct to avatar strategies. The time we do believe here at MG Empower that has come for us as marketeers to understand how NFTs might fit or not our brand strategy. And today there are different ways in which virtual possessions or NFTs are and will continue to be tested both by creators and by brands. For example, by pairing that physical product to their digital asset version, right? So that we start driving conversion and purchases not only on the physical world, but also on the virtual world. Also, there are some other brands out there already testing the waters and how they're going to use NFTs as engagement and loyalty tools. So back to our white paper, we actually dive into an example of Clinique and how they use NFTs to build that loyalty and build a loyalty scheme further for onboarding their consumers into the virtual worlds. So from an influencer marketing point of view, I do think that partnering with creators will enrich the value of these digital assets as brands put together more long-lasting strategies behind what that ownership of that NFT unlocks for the consumer. Are we unlocking exclusive content? Are we unlocking the drop-off of the drop-off of a new collection with a creator? What are we giving such exclusivity by the purchase of that NFT? We also have the new retail and e-commerce era, which is becoming more experimental and more multi-channel. So first, digital stores will start to mimic the physical ones as pop-ups will start emerging in these virtual worlds. And a great example of that is Heineken, the activation we were just mentioning, that they put that pop-up into Decentraland. Second, we have a new era of e-commerce and live stream shopping. So live stream shopping is taking the lead here on redefining how e-commerce actually looks like, making sure that that experience becomes immersive and that it actually reduces the discovery and the discovery product touch points required for a consumer to actually achieve a purchase within that e-commerce. So in the past year, we've had the opportunity to implement successful live stream shopping experiences for some of our clients. And one of the key takeaways that we've sort of highlight is that brands need to really partner with the right creator and the right influencers for those in real-time experiences to truly contribute to building that awareness and that education of consumers in a deeper way, right? And this will not only impact the business conversion goals directly, because it's shopping, it's conversion straight away, but will also allow the brand to engage, to redefine engagement, because it's happening in real time. The brand is having access to feedback on the products, on the brand in real time. So that interactivity, it's priceless. Now you're being able to have that social listening in real time. So that for us, we do believe that it's important. And it is a clear point here on how influencer marketing metrics are evolving, right? From those vanity metrics of awareness to performance metrics on how actually they impact the business.
Exactly. This comes back to the attribution models that we were talking about earlier, right? How do we actually take this so-called fantasy metrics, look at how influencer viewership, engagement, reach, and obviously their communities, they're linked with their communities, translating to real-time sales and traffic to the live stream. How all of that, how, as we all try to make sense of those vanity metrics, how these are translated to bottom line impact on the consumer funnel, right? So I think moving forward, understanding impact, it's all about creating these tailored attribution models that can really speak to brand objectives in a deeper level and drive the bottom line impact that we are all hoping for.
Yes, I agree. And as a final take into these new models, this is more than an intake on how we can jump into the metaverse. It's something a little bit more on the ethical side, right? To understand as marketeers, as creators, what those meta relationships would look like and how our behavior and the activations we put out there, how are they going to impact society rules and how are they going to impact on us building actually more inclusive virtual societies? So those two aspects that for us today in the real world are very important on inclusivity and diversity will remain key marketing aspects to be shaped on that virtual world. So from an influencer strategy, we will need to consider those virtual personality behaviors and the impact that they will have on these new virtual societies and communities. So we do believe that it's clear how these new era of immersive experiences will impact greatly the influencer marketing industry. And mainly because creators will be able to take advantage of the approach that they have with their audiences by connecting with them through a new and more interactive space. So a recent study from Marketing Tech actually shows that influencers are ready for it, having 72% of them answering that they are considering and are already making money out of Web3 and the metaverse. And 60% of them already viewing themselves as creators in the virtual worlds. So as Paula was saying, in our most recent white paper, we dive deeper into this new era of immersive experiences, and we actually share with you practical recommendations and examples on how this new realm is being tested. So if you haven't yet, you can download it on our website or in the chat. I do believe that our team is already posting the link for easy access for you to download it.
Exactly. And now let's just take a look at how influence will be completely transformed in these emerging virtual spaces we are talking about, right? These immersive experiences are to completely disrupt the concept of influence as we know it, representing a massive potential for brands to really connect with audiences. Well, starting with the concept of engagement, right? What we understand about engagement, right? We are very much attached to the concept, as we are seeing today, linked to likes, comments, and action points, right? But the new metaverse space will unlock multiple opportunities for creators to engage and interact with audiences. For example, food influencers can host an immersive cooking class directly with their followers, while travel influencers can really take followers into an adventure together, right? These immersive experiences will completely deepen engagement to a whole new level. Engagement will become way more complexity than the concept as we know it. So let's just think about this in this way, right? If before we were marketing purely to ears and eyes, think that now we will be marketing to all of the 5 senses in the metaverse, right? So as the experience, obviously more traditional established social channels becomes more flat and the attention span is even shorter, audiences will then start moving to the spaces where they can engage in different level with creators, and even most importantly, establish more intimate relationships in closer proximity with their favorite influencers. So the shareability aspect of immersive virtual worlds, it's unfold, right? It will allow brands to do just that and intersect themselves in those relationships, creating higher connectivity with their audiences. So now this represents a whole new opportunity for creators to also monetize over content, right? The whole creator economy will be highly benefit from this. In this sense, NFTs will also play a huge opportunities for increasing the collaboration between brands and creators, creating these new revenue streams at both ends. So for example, brands and creators can collaborate together to create exclusive experiences the NFT holders can only access, making that exclusive to the followers who actually purchase those NFTs, right? So this could range from anything from virtual experiences, virtual goods, or even exclusive content that is solely offered to those followers who actually purchase that NFT. So this provides an opportunity for the user to hold a part of the influencer, a part of the brand, and also supports their creators in the process, right? So from a monetization perspective, currently, creators are typically paid upfront for a set of content, right? While at least within the NFT ecosystem, the brand could diversify this monetary concept, this commercial, obviously, strategy, and reward creators based on the NFT performance. So merging an affiliate marketing concept with the traditional influencer marketing concept. So the opportunities are massive at both ends. And then when we come back to brands, all of this means a wider reach across all verticals of influence, right? It's an opportunity to really expand their target audiences and connect virtual features with physical moments. Finally, data-driven strategies will be completely transformed. If in the beginning of the industry, when all of this first started, we were struggling to actually get hold of more than 3 data points. Now the diversification of data and how we actually look at data in real time will completely revolutionize marketing and our informed decisions in which strategies to actually invest. Actually, real-time activities and hybrid events, NFTs and other digital goods will allow creators to boost the impact of their influence, having more clarity on the results they get by direct tracking attribution, which is what we were discussing before, right? It's all about tangible measurements that tracks the full consumer funnel in real time, as opposed to looking just at vanity metrics as a standalone. So I think all of this looks very exciting because in the end of the day, influencer marketing in the metaverse will be beneficial for all of the 3 groups, right? Brands, creators, and consumers. So providing a holistic value to all of the parts involved.
Yes, I agree with you, Paula. And as you were mentioning before, immersive experiences are to disrupt influence as we know it and as we understand it. So we need as marketeers to shift our mindset a little bit more to link that physical and virtual worlds towards interactive and memorable activations for creators and for the audience. But how do we do this? We do believe by doing this is by understanding how to engage, track, and measure the behavior of both creators and consumers in their new persona extensions as avatars. So from this perspective, KPIs of influencer marketing campaigns will entail a different set of metrics, such as tangible increase in revenue. Has the influencer driven conversion in the virtual space? Understanding conversion not only as purchase of an NFT, but understanding conversion perhaps as downloads or other type of interactions or unlocking tokens, right? Also, we have the impact on marketing operations. So how has influencer collected the feedback about the virtual brand activations? So here's when we need to start understanding the channels of communications that brands will start to put in place, right? In Reddit, in Discord, in Twitter. And then customer experiences and engagement. How has the influencer contributed to support audiences in their interaction and understanding of these virtual spaces? How are they creating those communities along with the brand? So I think on top of the KPIs, this already imposes brands a great opportunity to enhance their virtual interactions. First, by exploring the possibility of creating their own avatar brand representatives, right? So there is an avatar brand version to interact with consumers' digital extensions, right? Across this digital world. So it's that avatar to avatar conversation, that avatar to avatar community building. And to this point, It's also important to understand how brands can use those avatars and those immersive experiences to even dive into the current channels that the brand has. So a great example of this is Alibaba. This year, Alibaba, they've created their first virtual influencer for the Beijing Winter Olympics that are going to be happening here this year. Her name is Dong Dong. She's a 22-year-old woman which has a great passion, of course, for winter sports, right? And what she's doing is she's engaging and connecting with young tech-savvy fans and assisting them on their online shopping. So you can see here again, blending the traditional, let's say, channels of e-commerce, but enhancing that experience with having an avatar as a brand representative. I think that's mind-blowing, and it opens the possibility for us as marketeers to explore more options of how to market an experience.
Absolutely, and also tailor those marketing strategies along the way, right? And obviously, in order for all of this to happen, automation will actually play a crucial role in the development of these new immersive experiences, especially when it comes to influencers, right? So in that sense, AI will offer a model which will automatically provide a list of which engagement stage each user or consumer is at, allowing marketeers to have that holistic, dreamy overview of how impact is intersected across each step of the funnel, right, in line with the influencer marketing strategy stage. So this will have a massive impact on strategies and open so many new opportunities for brands to develop innovative storytelling with creators, amplifying the impact and delivering exactly what audiences expect, right? So not surprisingly, the automation market is set to reach over $265 billion by 2025.
Yes, and I think the question now is how to put in place a measurement strategy that considers the right KPIs when it comes to these new era of immersive experiences, right? So to answer that, let me go back to how the webinar started and how the conversation started. So if your brand is still considering vanity metrics alone, that's where the shift will need to start happening. So immersive experiences will demand more investment and more experimentation, and partnering with creators will be a key element to accelerate and enhance that presence in these new ecosystems. So influencer marketing will be more data-driven, and technology will also be a key feature, offering marketeers accurate data to use to not only measure results, but also develop content experiences that are more assertive. And that opens up more attractive landscape for us to accurately set up budgets for campaigns and track their results, and more attractive era for creators also to show the power of their influence, right? So what's next for influencer marketing performance? We've put together 3 key takeaways for you to go home and revisit.
Yeah, so I guess, well, the first step is actually redefining what and how we understand engagement, right? Again, we are very attached to the traditional concept of engagement, which is purely focused on likes, comments, and action points in essence. But this, again, will look completely different in the metaverse space. It will take another level of complexity. So brands will mostly need to appeal to all of the 5 senses in order to stand out and really connect with communities and drive that cultural impact that we all believe as an agency, right? So to really infiltrating the minds of consumers and the complexity behind the spaces, the tactile stimulation, the influencer authentic relationships, and the data-driven experiential strategies will be the way forward altogether. So here again, if you like, a multiverse engagement solution will be the strategy that marketing seems to be looking at.
Yes, definitely. A second one will be repurpose and rethink that customer journey, right? This will become a more complex ecosystem and a more complex journey. And it will not only be limited to social channels and e-commerce anymore, but channels will be expanded, impacting the metrics that we consider today to measure those partnerships with creators. Influencers will serve to help educate audiences to navigate this new immersive and virtual landscape for brands and for consumers. And brands will have to consider metrics related to the behavior of avatars, which will not always resemble the ones that we're used to assessing in real life. They're going to become more, there's going to be new behaviors emerging. So with this complex new customer journey, both vanity metrics and performance metrics, they will need to come together to fully portray a more in-depth and complete picture of the overall experience.
And finally, last but not least, as we look at a new type of engagement in a more complex consumer journey, well, marketeers will intuitively need to revisit, not be enough to determine how we define audience geo-targeting and how these audiences actually transit between two words and from one avatar to the other, because the same user can have multiple avatars. So can you imagine the impact behind the targeting? So in the end, we will have omni-channels and, if you like, omni-audiences as well. So in this sense, brands will be offered the possibility of selecting different tiers of audiences, setting KPIs that make sense to each of these tiers, and partnering with more assertive creators to communicate authentically with each one of those clusters and even to different avatars with the same creator, right? So the level of complexity is absolutely unimaginable. Well, I guess as we come to the end of this, Andrea, I think obviously in the early stages of Web 3.0 and metaverse, it is so incredibly challenging to predict how systemic and how huge the impact will be, right? Nobody could have ever predicted the impact of social media in the early days. So what we do know, though, is that the possibilities for the creator economy are absolutely endless, right? The most successful brands of tomorrow will be the ones who adapt quickly and embrace this change and start testing the waters. So this is just the beginning of something really big, and we all need to adapt our frameworks in how we measure impact as we enter into this new world, right? We at Engine Power, I always say that we believe in seeing the bigger picture, going above and beyond, if you like. So taking a step back to ensure that brands are understanding the impact across the full consumer funnel, it's necessary, right? In the metaverse or outside it. So this ultimately means moving away from metrics that are vague, there are our vanity metrics, and creating more meaningful, tailored attribution models, driving tangible impacts, and especially something that are always tapping to cultural impacts, right? You want to make sure that you're tapping into culture, that you are really affecting communities, that you are driving beyond vanity metrics with your brand influencer marketing strategy. Well, I think we could keep going, but I guess we are coming to the end of our webinar, Andrea.
Yes, and I think it's time for us to answer a couple of questions from the audience. We won't have time to answer all of them, but please, if you have any question or feedback, please do reach us out through our social channels or our website. We're eager to keep this conversation going with you because it's so interesting. But I do believe our team has selected a few here.
Yes. So looking at the first question, what would be the role of the influencer in attracting a specific group of consumers to a brand through these new immersive experiences? Would you like to take that one, Andrea?
Sure, yes. So as we mentioned before, creators are going to play a key role on onboarding audiences into these new immersive experiences. They're going to be the ones guiding and moderating how audiences are going to start interacting in these new worlds. So, and I think it's important that we understand that not all population is native to gaming. We're not all into it just yet. So creators are going to play a key role on explaining that to audiences and what's the value behind these immersive experiences.
And second question, which I'm happy to actually take, what are the ideal combination of vanity and performance metrics available today to achieve a more complete impact analysis? Well, the thing is, there's not a perfect system, right? The best way to go is actually to create a tailored measurement system that really connects with the brand objectives. For instance, we've talked about the live streams that we've hosted to clients, right? In that specific attribution model, we've connected how viewership and reach was actually able to drive traffic, and obviously how engagement actually influenced traffic and conversions at the live stream. So it's about making sense of all of these metrics together in combination, as opposed to setting the perfect model ahead of the campaign. So we have to be looking at specific objectives. We have to be looking at the strategy to be able to determine, obviously, the tailored attribution metric system to actually measure success behind a campaign. That's why brands absolutely need to develop those tailored models. It's not about one size fits all purposes, right? It's all about looking at this in a very bespoke way, so we can really understand the impacts in connection with objectives, and obviously look at the full consumer funnel as opposed to purely influencer vanity metrics. So unfortunately, again, we'll have to wrap this up. We could keep going, but it was such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. If you have any more questions that we couldn't actually address, please feel free to reach us out. We would be happy to engage with you and get back to you in a later stage. So engage with us in our socials. And remember, you can download our white paper with these takeaways and much more for free. So the link should be on the chat right now. Don't forget to download it. And we really hope to see you again very soon. Thank you again so much for joining.
Thank you so much for everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.